So PeakDo have just sent me their handheld system, and I have a lot of thoughts. Now whilst they did send me this free of charge, I'm not being paid to say anything in this video at all. So essentially this is a handheld gaming system, but it doesn't have its own integrated hardware. So for example, you'll need a PC or an Xbox or a PlayStation, and this just acts as a controller and a second screen. So for example, rather than being sat at your desk, you can be sat on your sofa, but there is a bit more to it which we'll get to later in the video. So as you can see, it comes packaged in this case and it's quite a nice snug fit. And there's also some accessories that come with it. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but you can see on the screen. So my first impressions of the feel of it has a really nice ergonomic feel, and the back is made from a really nice aluminium finish, and the hand portions of the controller are made out of plastic, but it feels quite nice. And then on the top, from left to right, we have the mini HDMI, we have the USB-C video input, we have the USB-C charging port, we have a heat sink, we have an LED indicator which lets you know whether it's on or off, we have a 3.5mm headphone jack with volume up and down, menu back, and the on and off button. And then we have this. Now this is the heart and soul of this whole operation. Now to explain what this is, we need to go back just a little bit. So things like the PlayStation Portal, they use Wi-Fi, and the benefit to that is you can use it anywhere in the world, but the downside, and it can be quite a big downside, is latency. Latency and glitching out and losing connection is a big problem with the PlayStation Portal. However, PeakDo for this device use millimeter wave technology, and there are a lot of benefits to that. The biggest one is a faster transfer speed with more bandwidth, a faster transmission rate, zero latency, and it's plug and play, so you don't need an internet connection to actually use this with your console. Now of course those are the benefits, but there are some downsides which we'll get to a bit later in the video. On the side of this HDMI dongle, there's also a USB-C port, because you can plug your PC into this so you can use the touchscreen on the handheld device. This allows you to actually use it like a normal screen. And talking about the screen, the resolution is a 1080p screen, which for a screen that's this sort of size is honestly more than enough. It looks absolutely fine, as you'll see later. Now we need to talk about one or two of the problems. So this is my capture card, and the reason why I've got my capture card out for this video is because when this device is plugged into the back of my PlayStation, it's a bit harder to use. Don't worry, it will all make sense. So whether it's your PlayStation or PC, you plug in this dongle to your output. Essentially, this is where you'd normally plug your TV into. Then you plug your USB-C cable into the side, which gives it power. And in this instance, I'm connecting this capture card to my PlayStation. Now, you don't need to do all of this. You can just plug this into the back of your device. Next, we need to turn the PlayStation on. Now, if you've got password protection set up on your PlayStation, you will need to confirm that first with your controller. Then you can turn on the controls on the PeakDo Handheld. Now, you may be thinking, why doesn't this handheld have one on and off switch? And why is there a separate switch for the controllers? And the reason for this is so these controls can actually connect to multiple devices. If they make these controls integrated into the actual hardware of the screen, you're limiting to what hardware you can connect to. Now I tried to launch Grand Theft Auto 5, the PS5 version, and this is where we were left with our first issue. The controls read as PlayStation 4 controls, and you can't use a PS4 controller on a PlayStation 5 to play PS5 games. So instead I downloaded Session for PlayStation 4. A little footnote since the edit of this video, I've actually since spoke to PeakDo about this. Obviously when I tested this device, there weren't any publicly available manuals how to use it. You can actually connect this to the PlayStation 5, and they've posted a full video on how to do it. But connecting it to the PlayStation 5 is a lot more complicated than what we've seen here. Now the speakers on this are actually really good. I actually prefer them on this than I do to the PlayStation Portal. The PlayStation Portal speakers sound a little bit more tinny. Now if we get close up to the screen, we can actually see that this resolution is really good. 1080p on a smaller device like this honestly is absolutely fine. Now the triggers on the back have a really nice range of motion, they're linear, but the downside to these triggers is that they do feel a little bit cheap and thin. Now one of the things I was really impressed with was the menu. So in the menu system you can adjust everything. You can control the fan on it. If the fan's being too noisy and it's giving itself excess cooling, you can just turn that off. You can also put it into delayed sleep modes and of course hide the battery status. I like to keep the battery status on. It's nice to know when it's running out of battery, but you can turn that off if you want to. We also have full customization of the RGB spectrum, so you can really get your colors dialed in for this. Also, you can adjust the color temperature, which is really useful when it gets late at night. You can turn down the brightness and make the color temperature warmer just to give it that sort of night mode effect. Now, let's take a look at the back of this thing, because it's something that you may have noticed earlier, but I want to talk a bit more about it. This plastic window here is for the millimeter wave technology to work, and this is the Achilles heel of this device. You'll notice that the dongle has the same plastic window on it, and these need to be in line of sight to each other. So you can't use this device in other rooms. This is probably the biggest problem with this device. If you're in the same room and you're sat on the sofa, you're not going to have any problems at all. But if you put just a piece of metal in the way or something that's quite dense in the way between the dongle and the actual device, you'll lose connection, which is why I've been using my capture card as almost a HDMI extender. Now, this being said, I thought this makes the PlayStation Portal a complete no-brainer, but it doesn't. After using the PeakDo Handheld for at least a couple of weeks now, the latency on the PlayStation Portal genuinely feels night and day. It's worlds apart. In fact, I can't even play Session on the PlayStation Portal anymore because I feel like the latency is far too much. This is one of the things that once you go there, you just can't go back. Now, if you want to learn more about this device, there are links down below. I thought I'd give you a pretty balanced first look and first opinion on it. Despite the problems it has, I'm still addicted to using it. It is a better way to play games, but there are some things that I wish, of course, they did better. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.